Hello. I don't know. The live video crashed and I couldn't get it to come back up. My phone was getting a message and it just completely crashed down the system. So I opened this up. I don't know if any of you guys are gonna find this. But I apologize. Hopefully this will work for getting things getting things going again. I can hang out until till 7 today. So I didn't want to ditch everyone. I didn't want to ditch the members chat at 20 minutes in. So if any of you guys got any questions, just let me know. I don't know. What were we talking about? We were talking about cooler season okay. I'm assuming. Okay. Well, it looks like this isn't a members live anymore. But I'll explain. I'll explain what's happening since now there's going to be more people. So the first Monday of the month, I do a private live chat with all of the channel members. It's like people who, I don't know, I forget what it is. I forget how it works. I did it years ago. But you can join to be a member of the channel. And then I do a private chat, and then, a bunch of them, they have the little symbols beside their name. So I can see them and I know who I'm talking to in comments and in the chat. And there's little emojis that I got to make when I did it. But yeah, so the video crashed. I was getting a phone call and it made my entire phone shut down. I don't know why. But we were talking about veggies when it crashed. I was saying, because we were talking about carrots, and I was saying that you can plant them as soon as you can work the soil, and that it's actually surprising how many crops are like that. There's actually very few veggie crops that really do need the heat. It's kind of like the squashes and the melons and, cucumbers and tomatoes, are kind of the summer crop list. I mean, I guess there's a few beans. I guess beans don't really like the cool weather. But there's so many things that you can grow instead of just waiting until until your last frost date. And so many of the things that you can grow in those cooler weather actually grow a lot better and a lot easier than if you save it and you try to grow it in the summer. It's kind of like lettuce. Lettuce is very, very challenging to grow in the heat of summer. But when you grow it in the shoulder seasons, so lettuce is a little frost and freeze sensitive. But I mean, for me, I'd be direct seeding lettuce April 1st, even though May 1st is my last frost date, right? So, back in the day, my plan was always lettuce fairly early. And then I would go on to kind of Swiss chard and kales and things like that for the summer season, because those heavier greens were actually a lot easier to grow in the heat. But yeah, so many good greens that you could be starting now that do have frost resilience. I mean, it's the beginning of March. Most of the stuff, most veggies I hold off until like mid-March. But at the same time that I would be starting tomatoes, like March 15th, start tomatoes and peppers, so that they can grow and be large when I plant them out, beginning of May. I would also gladly be starting like bok choy seedlings now that I could plant out kind of, second week of April. And, then I'd be able to harvest them and have them be ready pretty soon. Yeah. So don't and the other thing too, it's when you grow from actual, like when you buy plants, when you buy seedlings, it can be expensive, so it can be hard to experiment with things. But one of the nice things about when you experiment with growing from seed is that you can it's not a huge financial risk to put seeds into the ground and have it be too cold or have them germinate and then die off. At this time of year, the weather is like kind of crazy. You never know what it's going to be. It can be really hot. It can be really cold. So, if you're just putting a couple dollars worth of seed into the ground, it's not as scary as when you have $100 worth of plants that you're planting out. So, now is a great time to like push yourself to experiment. Okay, let's see. I think Sherry has a comment here or a question. I irrigate my flower rows with drip tape. I'm planning on adding a veg garden this spring. Do veg do all right with overhead watering, or should I extend the drip tape in that section? Yeah, so like honestly, I have like really good success with overhead watering. At this point, the whole farm is getting like transitioned into overhead watering, other than inside the greenhouses. And the stuff inside the greenhouses, the stuff that's going to be the most like water damaged sensitive, right? So the Lysianthus, like they're kind of just like that next level up crop. So I want them inside the greenhouses over the summer, not because they need the heat at all. I want them in there because they're under cover. So if it does rain, I don't have to worry about them getting wet and causing any sort of like water damage on the blooms. And so in those cases, like I want the drip so that I'm also not causing water damage to the blooms. But I mean, Lysianthus even is a great example of like how into overhead watering I am, because the Lysianthus in the spring, before the plants kind of get established, I do tend to like drag a hose into the greenhouse and give it overhead watering, just because the drip can be like, I'm really sandy, so the water doesn't spread super well. But the drip can be more difficult when you have like really small plants that don't have roots that have reached down to kind of cover really consistently the entire area. So yeah, like I wouldn't be super worried. Maybe tomatoes, especially if you're like in an area that has any sort of blights. Lots of places, like my preferred tomatoes are indeterminate vining style tomatoes, because they just go and go and go. We have like really long, like hot falls here. Like September is always like really nice. So, I do have a long window for being able to like produce tomato fruit. And then we don't have any sort of like blights that affect the plants. But if you are in an area where like tomato blight is an issue, you want to be really careful about not not doing the overhead watering, because the blight is in the soil and then it like bounces up. Like when you water, it splashes the pathogens onto the plants and spreads the disease that way. And then like if blight's really bad, then you want to kind of do more determinate style tomatoes, because you want them to have like a big flush before the plant gets killed off by blight. So yeah, so there are some things, but like honestly, I don't know, other than tomatoes, and I overhead water to my tomatoes at this point, right? Because I just have them in the field along with everything else. But yeah, you like I mean, they're plants. They're all designed to be able to they're designed to be able to be in the rain, right? And overhead watering is just, it's like the rain. Okay, let's see. What's Lisa saying here? Oh, she's saying she enjoys the member chats. Yeah, no, like honestly, I like, yeah. So she's saying that like the member chats are like, it's like $5 a month. I think there's 2 levels. I don't think there's any difference between the levels because the only reason why we set up the membership in the first place is just because we had lots of people who were like asking, like they wanted a way to be able to support the channel. Um, yeah. So I think I set it up as like a $5 one, and then I think there's like a $20 one. I think it's like you're my best friend at the $5 level, and then you're my soulmate at the $20 level. That was like our joke. Um, and yeah, no, it's not a members chat at this point. I don't know what happened. Ian was phoning me, and then I don't know. Like I put every time I do these, my phone is broken every time I do these live videos, because I think I'm on data right now. I don't know, my internet's not working for some reason. And then anytime I put it on like do not disturb, like I still get like texts and notifications and everything. And if I'm on data and someone phones me, like I've had it crash. I've had it crash the program before. I just usually don't get any phone calls, so it's usually not a problem. Okay, let's see, Lisa. Are you going to sell tomato seedlings at the stand this year? Yes. The original plan was we were going to do a lot of seedlings. I was going to buy in a bunch of perennials too. But I just like things got a little bit overwhelming and I didn't get my order in time, and now it's like March, right? Like it's like time to order for next year now. But I am going to be doing potting up some perennials that are kind of be able to be available throughout the year. I want to have kind of like a seedling section beside the roadside stand. So the roadside's we took out a panel of the fence when we built the roadside stand, and it's just kind of like pushed up to the fence line. So it's really easy for us just to like pull another panel of the fence off, and then put another post in, and then kind of like frame out like a little area. Put some, I could hang off of the roof of the roadside stand some shade cloth. I could make like kind of a little seedling area. So I do want to have some stuff that's kind of available all year that are more perennial plants. Like there's like flowers that I want to do. So I showed you guys the ranunculus and the anemones that I have, but I have some of them saved that I'm going to be starting up next week that I'm going to then pot up and have them available like as seedlings for people to buy. I'm gonna, like probably pot up some of the Lysianthus was the plan. The Lysianthus is really in demand, and I bought in a bunch of eucalyptus, not for me growing. I don't need a field of eucalyptus, but to actually pot it up and grow it and sell plants because it's a really desirable and hard to find plant in the local area. So I'm going to do some of that. And then I'm also going to do like some tomatoes. I don't know that I'm going to do peppers. Back when I did the seedlings, basically my goal is to like stuff that I know is going to sell, that's going to be easy. So I don't want to get bogged down with doing too much, because I know how time consuming like taking care of like seedlings for seedling sale type stuff can be. So I want to be like really focused on things that are going to be easy, things that I already have, things that are going to be like really profitable. I'll pot up some dahlias. I have some peonies. I might sell some of my peonies potted up. Not the ones that I planted, but I do have some extra ones that were potted into pots last year. Yeah, and then tomatoes, definitely tomatoes. Maybe not 1,000. That's probably too many. But I think I probably could sell like a couple hundred tomatoes quite easily out of the roadside stand. Because last year I think I had 200, maybe not quite that, but close. And almost all of them like sold like way too late in the season. I was like selling them in like June and they like disappeared. I had like a week where I just like put them up, had a sign, and then like every day I like checked the money and I was like, oh man, there's like a lot of money in here. I guess people are buying these tomatoes. Um, but yeah, and then I'm also gonna do some like seedling, like veggie kind of like 4-pack type stuff, some things like kale and Swiss chard and maybe some lettuces, maybe some squashes, cucumbers, stuff like that. I still have like an entire farm worth of seeds, so I have lots of seeds on hand to do that kind of stuff, and I picked up some pots to be able to do it. Because in the past, when I did the seedling sale, we were doing the paper pots, we were doing the soil blocks. It was a lot of work, and it was just hard to get the balance. So I'm focused on having a balance. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see what the stand's gonna do. I think it's gonna have a lot of potential. Having plants as well as flowers at the stand. Just being really simple. And then the other thing that I want to do is because I said I was going to do this last year and I failed. I had like 200 tomato plants, and I did have a couple things kind of spread out throughout the farm, but it's been a few years since I've had an abundance of veggies, and I definitely miss it. I miss not having a million cucumbers to snack on when I'm working outside. So this year, like I really want to make that happen. So I have 3 raised beds now that my tulips are in, and they're going to be filled with the compost, like that the tulips are in. When I pull them out, the compost is still going to stay in place. So what I'm hoping to do is, because I'll have these seedlings anyways for the roadside stand, I'll take some for myself, and then I'm going to plant up the raised beds that have the tulips pulled out, because there'll be like a dedicated empty space. I'll be able to actually have like a veggie garden in that space throughout the summer. So I'm excited to actually be able to kind of make some veggie content again for everyone, because veggies are my love. I am team veggies, even though I am now officially a flower farmer. Veggies will always be the one that got away for me. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah, everyone, like I'm very bad at technology, so I'm glad to see a bunch of the members that were hanging out. Let's see. Would you consider growing wildflowers to sell? So that's a question that oh, look, there's not even that many questions. Perfect. That's like one of those things that like triggers flower farmers, like wildflowers. Like not me, but it makes me laugh, because a bunch of like the flower farmers get really triggered by it, because wedding customers will be like, I just want like the wildflower look. I want the wildflower look. And none of like the wildflower look is as cultivated as as roses and eucalyptus, the really formal look. It's a different style. So technically I already commercially grow a lot of like local wildflower plants, right? It like, in fact, like one of the so yarrow is a perfect example, and like nothing grows here, right? It's like, this is a desert here, like nothing there is no April showers or May flowers. Yeah, so but one thing that actually does grow here is yarrow. And when we moved here and we were setting up our yarrow beds like fairly early on, there was part of our lawn that was just white yarrow, and I loved it. I was always like, Ian, don't mow the yarrow. I need to like pick it for the flowers. It's actually one of my favorite yarrows, just like the simple white yarrow. And so when I put in the permanent, like perennial yarrow beds, I actually dug up a chunk of the lawn and like, got like yarrow like seedlings out, like weeds, basically wildflowers. And so yeah, like I'm cultivating about 150 like of actually wildflower plants. But yeah, no, a lot of the stuff that I have, kind of would be considered wildflowers. At this point though, like my goal is to be like more focused, more narrowed in. I'm not necessarily looking to add a lot of things to the farm. I'm at this point, I need like I'm growing more than I can sell. So I need to get some work done on being able to increase like my selling. And the only way I can do that is if I like streamline the time that I'm spending on the growing. If I'm growing, I'm using all the hours of the day to grow. It doesn't leave me any hours left over to sell the things that I grow. And so then I don't end up getting the money that I need from all the things that I grew. So a lot of the stuff that I'm planting kind of moving forward is maybe even a little bit more formal than it's been in the past. Like this year, well, I do have yarrow. I have Peter Cottontail yarrow. I can't wait for these to come in. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be the best unboxing of the year. I did like an order from like a local greenhouse grower that has like some stuff I'm really excited about. And one of them is Peter Cottontail yarrow. It's like little balls. It looks like baby's breath. But it's a yarrow. So I'm like, oh, can't wait to see it. Can't wait to try it. And like I'm putting in a bunch of sedum. I'm putting in a bunch of delphinium. I don't know. I can't even remember everything that I'm putting in, but I am kind of growing some more of like the formal looking stuff, some of the like the less like wildflowery type flowers. But yeah, like the spring collection is always a little bit more of like the wildflower feel to it. Um, like the staples for spring here are like yarrow and feverfew are kind of like the base. Like lots of herbs for the greeneries, rudbeckia, kind of these like, more like cheery garden plants, which is, larkspur, some of these, like, the bouquets end up kind of being like bigger and like less focals, lots of just like a little stuff, and often that's what people are looking for when they're asking for like the wildflower look. Okay, let's see, Lisa. What are you gonna do with all those dried flowers in back? Is there, yeah, all this? Yeah, I know. I haven't. So because I haven't like full on started the seed starting and everything yet, I haven't done a proper clean yet of the outbuilding. So the plan is like, these piles, this is like, I've been working on stuff and then just kind of, there's a table over there and I have a cart inside. That's like what this pile is. So it's become the kind of like the dirty laundry pile, basically. It's like where I put things when I'm done with it. And it's stacking up. But yeah, no, I need to box up a bunch of the dried flowers, and kind of like get them organized. I still haven't, the plan is that I'm supposed to like make a bunch of like the pumpkin toppers. I haven't done that yet. That was supposed to be my January job. I'm going to do it though. Cause I like, honestly, I will, so mid-March, I'm going to start planting. I have like my first planting mid-March. But the season, it's like seed starting and there is like, it's not like full on. It's not like 80-hour work weeks, in like March, and even like April, when, April, I'm starting to plant out like the cooler season crops, right? Like, so the stuff that I showed at the beginning of the members video, like status and snapdragons and those types of things, those are going to be getting planted out in April. But it's the like, when I officially don't have time for anything else, period, is when the tulips start blooming, because the tulips start blooming and then the weather, we're like finally past the frost. And so then I need to be planting out all of my warmer weather crops at that point. And then I also have to like take care of like thousands and thousands and thousands of seedlings at that point. So when that hits, then things are like, whoa, it's very busy. So I still have a window. I still have a window to get some of this work done. I have lots of the Christmas ornaments that I got prepped up this year that are in storage. So they're all ready. You know, Something like this, like it looks like a lot, and I do have some stuff hanging too. But it actually it disappears quite quickly. And like a lot of the stuff that I have hanging, it's like over beside me, are actual like finished bouquets. And so those just get boxed up and then I bring them out as things sell. So I'm not super overwhelmed by how much. All right. How cold is too cold for sunflowers? So sunflowers are like a confusing one, because they are like a plant after your last frost type flower. They like the heat, but they also like I'm very surprised how cold hardy they are. I always like I always feel like they should die and then they just don't, right? Like sunflowers are actually one of the flowers that I plant that will like the flower will still be viable after a frost. Um yeah, so I wouldn't plant sunflowers now, but I would be willing to start experimenting with sunflowers in kind of like, second week of April on most years. I almost always plant sunflowers at least 2 weeks before the last frost. So like kind of April 15th outside, not in the tunnel or anything. That's when I'd be planting them. And yeah, honestly, if I like really wanted to push sunflowers to as early as possible, I'd probably do seedlings April 1st and then plant the seedlings out April 15th and be like pretty confident for that, and that would get it even a little bit earlier. Um, the I have like sunflowers are such weeds, then like and I always leave some to bloom. So like as soon as I see sunflowers like germinating, it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay. Like when there's like weed sunflowers growing, it's like, well, you can put them out. They're ready to go, and they do tend to pop. They pop up more once things get warm. I get the most wild sunflowers germinating in June, like when the actual warm weather comes. But yeah, no, I have had them. I have had them germinate on their own before we're past frost. But it's a tricky one. It depends on like if you feel like you can afford to lose some of the things or not. Okay, let's see. Thingies, Jill. Do you still have 2 market tents that you could use, one next to the flower stand and use that for the veggie and flower seedling sale? Yeah, I do. The one thing about that though is the one problem with the tents is they're a little bit dangerous. Right? Like they're one of the main reasons why you need to have insurance when you sell at a farmer's market. Because those like wind comes and those tents like go flying no matter how tied down you have it. They're kind of like a perfect umbrella to like pick up. And because like we're right beside like a road, I don't know that I'd want to put one of the tents out there just like, oh, it's just fine, it's just out there. It's one thing when I'm like there, like back in the day we used to set up the tent to do like a sale, or we'd on Mother's Day it was pretty warm last year, and so we set up the tents to keep things just a little bit cooler in the stand, to keep the sun off of the front of the stand because it was too hot for tulips last year. But that was like a day, I was home, I was going to be watching it. I don't think I'd set it up permanently. Unless what I had the frame and the tent like canvas part had broken, and I'd set up the frame and then put shade cloth over it. Because one of the so the shade cloth is great because it's going to let air flow through it. So it's not gonna have any sort of a risk of like if a gust of wind comes, it's not gonna pick up shade cloth. It'll just blow right through the shade cloth. So, like kind of what I'm thinking, like when I say, oh, I'd put some shade cloth up is, I'd have like two posts, like, here'd be the roadside stand, and then I'd have two posts here, and then I'd just like tie a piece of shade cloth like above, like way above people's heads, and it'd give a little bit of shelter for the seedlings, just to make things a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I also like I want it to look nice, so let's see. Aren't sunflowers long day plants? Are there day neutral varieties? So I don't know. I don't know if they're not normally day neutral, but growing the pro cuts, they're like 60 days, or like 66 or whatever they say they are. You can plant them every week, and they'll bloom a week after each other. So the great thing about the pro cuts is like you can like very much time them, and they come really fast. So yeah, like what I was talking about planting quite early on the sunflowers. Sunflowers started in a soil block April 1st, planted out on April 15th, would bloom 1 week earlier than the ones planted direct seeded on April 15th. Partially because like it'll slow down a little bit being in the seedling, and also they take longer to grow in the cooler weather. Like when they say 66 days, that's like perfect prime conditions. But for the end of the season, the beginning of the season and the end of the season, less sunlight, more cold, all those kind of things, they're gonna make the how many days it takes till they're ready stretch. So yeah, so sometimes like you want to space things even further out in the successions at the beginning of the season, so by the time they come to bloom, they're like closer together, just because of how all that works. But it's like the great thing about sunflowers is they're the perfect one to learn. They're the perfect one to learn about how to do that with, because they are so short that it's less noticeable the way you need to fluctuate. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Get pro cuts. They're amazing. Sunflowerselections.com. That's the place to do it. I was like, it's been 2 years since I made a video gushing about sunflower selections. I should probably like go make another video again, because they're, yeah, great prices for pro cuts. They are a little bit expensive, but they're definitely worth the money. In the future, will you need a very, very large cooler to hold all your peonies? Yes. That's one of the problems with what I did with the peonies. The truth is, like, our cooler that we have, it's great. For me, like it's actually a very functional size. It's really easy to keep it to temperature with like a pretty standard air conditioner in it, and the CoolBot system. But it's not like a full-on production sized cooler. It is still just a trailer, like turned with a CoolBot in it. So this last year, because of how quick all the tulips came on, because we had a heat wave, I basically had to harvest like a month's worth of tulips in like a 10-day window. And so I didn't have all those days of selling to take down my stock at all. And I ran out of space even just for tulips. Last year we were lucky. Our neighbor with the cherries, we talked to him, and because his harvests aren't ready yet, so his coolers had a lot of space, and he was able to lend us some space in his cooler to store tulips. Because if not, it would have been like, I don't know, I guess like if you can't cold storage them, then you can't keep them from blowing out. So like the cooler that I have now, even like on the scale that I'm working with, is not like does have some problems. So I don't know if I said it in the peony video, but I've been talking about it a bunch in the live videos when I talk about the peonies. I think it's going to take 5 years because of like my growing conditions for the peonies to get like fully like into their full production. And so basically, I started a 5-year countdown clock for needing to upgrade my cold storage situation. This building that I'm in, I have a room off of this room. This is like the main workshop space. Where I've been using it just for dried flower storage. But what I would eventually like to do with it is I would like it to get turned into cold storage, and I would like to put like a garage door, like an exterior door onto it, so that I would be able to put in large amounts very quickly through an exterior door, but then I would still be able to like grab things very easily from inside for working in this workshop space. And then I would like, if I had an entire room, it'd be probably 4 times the amount of cooler space that I currently have in the trailer. And then the great thing about the trailer is that the trailer could get turned into like temporary storage, right? So the trailer could potentially become where tulips get stored, where peonies get stored. It could be the place where when I have too much, I plug it in, and it's my overflow. But yeah, because 1,000 peony plants can produce 10 stems per plant, which means 10,000 peonies that potentially need to be in cold storage. Not actually, right? Because I'd be selling some. But yeah, 1,000 peonies, that'd be like crazy, right? Like the peonies are like a bunch of peonies is like that would be like 10 peonies, right? So I'd need a lot of space. It's in the thought process. I'll probably procrastinate on it, and it'll be year 3, and I'll be like, is there a trick to getting the lid off the kitty litter buckets? I don't know. The kitty litter, I don't actually, all of my kitty litter buckets, I didn't buy them, but they were the kitty litter brand that my mom used. And so when I started doing the farm, she started dropping off all the kitty litter buckets to me. But yeah, no, I'm trying to think, because I know exactly what you mean, and like they're like glued on. It's not like a lid. It's like you almost have to like tear it apart. So I know at some point I did take some off, but I don't know. I can't help you. We need a big strong man with man hands. Be like, please come help me. Yeah, let's see. Do you have any solar panel roofed greenhouses to extend the season? So none of the greenhouses are heated. Oh, and just so you guys know, I'm seeing the time here. I'm gonna go after this, because I have some kid stuff that I have to do tonight still. Yeah, so none of the greenhouses that we have are heated. They're basically just like high tunnels. And they warm up a little bit in the shoulder seasons, right? So this time of year, even though sorry guys, even though it's quite cold outside, just that little bit of shelter and the holding in the heat of the day that warms up the soil inside the tunnels a lot, to make it so that you can plant things out, a month earlier. But the things that I'm planting into the tunnels at this time of year aren't things that are warm weather crops, right? Like I can't plant. I'm laughing at the ready for Betty alarm. That's exactly what happened. The ready for Betty alarm went off. Yeah, so I can't plant the warm season crops in April. I can't plant the warm weather crops in the tunnels pretty much until I can plant them outside. But what I can do is, for example, like Lysianthus. I'm going to be planting my Lysianthus in a couple weeks, and so it's it's still going to get freezing, right? Or my anemones and my ranunculus, they're like, it's still going to, when it's -6 outside overnight, it's going to be -6 inside the tunnels too. It's not going to save it from the nighttime lows. But what it's going to do is it's going to warm up more during the day, right? So when, after it's -6, when it's only 10 degrees out during the day, this is all Celsius. I don't know these numbers in Fahrenheit. But yeah, so when the day isn't really warm, the tunnel, because it holds in the heat when the sunlight is shining in, it's going to like warm up a bunch. And so the fact that it can be 25 all day inside the tunnel acts as like a heat sink into the soil. So even though it's then dropping, the ambient air temperature is dropping down to -6, the fact that in the tunnel it was 25 during the day, and now it's 6, there's a lot more warmth in that soil to insulate against how cold the air is for the roots of the plants, as opposed to like out in the field where when it was 10, the soil only warmed up to it being 10. So that gives a few weeks on stuff that can like handle the colder weather. And then when I did veggies, the advantages of the tunnels in the summer was to like get some really concentrated heat. Being Canadian, the number heat units is something we don't talk about because we don't have a bunch of them. But you kind of like July, August, bit of September, you can get some good heat. But with a tunnel, you're able to concentrate in that heat. June is now is like summer hot inside the tunnel, which is going to kickstart those crops like tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and eggplants and all those things that I used to grow inside the tunnel, and they're gonna grow a lot more abundantly. Now with the flowers, because like there is no flower that wants that, at least none that I grow. Now the advantage for me with the tunnels is the hoop structure gives me the ability to put shade cloth over some of my plants. So the tunnels in the summer now actually make it so that I have cooler summer growing space. And that is kind of like the advantage with the flowers. A little bit less light, they grow a little bit longer, they're sheltered from the wind and the rain. You can just get a little bit more of a professional product. But yeah, so that's what the purpose of the unheated tunnels are. And like, I don't have any plans on using heat like going forward, because even if I could get like a solar panel system for it, it's just the amount of effort that it would be to get a little bit more heat in there wouldn't necessarily be transformative to the system that I have. And I think I'm probably better off, instead of investing into like heating costs every year, I could spend the same amount of money on like just buying plugs. And then, I don't need like, because the one thing that would be nice would be to have a greenhouse space for growing seedlings. But rather than investing into that infrastructure myself, just supporting someone else's infrastructure is also like a system that I think can work really great. But I would like to get solar. This building has like the perfect angle and like the perfect like roof direction and everything for like being really good for getting like a solar panel like system up. I always said like eventually when my van dies, I'd like maybe look into buying an electric vehicle and then getting like a solar panel system, and I could use the solar panels to like run a car. But like I said, I have to buy that walk-in cooler for the peonies first before I bother doing any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go. But just update for the channel for you guys. I have a video that I'm working on about how to starting my like ranunculus and anemones. So I have that I'm just finishing up, and it should be out this week. And then I also have another video that I'm planning probably for next week, another dried flower video. So I have some stuff coming. Oh, and like I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm gonna say it to, and then you guys peer pressure. You remind me that I said this. You peer pressure me about it. But I was thinking, like, because I've been saying for like 2 years that I want to make more shorts. It's hard for me to like get organized for doing it. But I was thinking maybe like a system that would work really good, right? Because the whole point of these like live videos is that I answer questions. But the format is it's a little difficult to be mass consumed, because it's just me blabbing for 2 hours. But I was thinking that maybe I would try to get a system this year of like getting some questions and then making shorts, to answer like some of the questions that I know I can like answer like quickly and concisely instead of rambling on about, so that there'd kind of start to be like a resource deck of like quick answers, to a lot of like the like repeated questions. So I've been thinking about this. So if you guys like that idea, be all like, Serena, when are you going to answer our questions in shorts? But yeah. And then there's a bunch of people here. Like the first Monday of the month is a time that I take to do like a members specific live chat. But I had technical difficulties, and then when I redid this, it ended up like I did it so that it was like open to everyone. But yeah, that's a good idea. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, I want to say like to the members, especially the ones who like made it back to this, like, sorry. How much like I really appreciate you guys being like part of the membership program. It takes a lot of pressure off of me. At like times like this when I haven't been making a lot of videos, like I can see it in like my analytics, I can see it in my numbers, I can see it in my income. And you guys like supporting me like through the membership thing, like actually like it makes a big difference. It gives me time to like take like a breather for myself. So just thank you. Thanks for being part of it. Someone's asking about how to join it. I think there's I'm very bad at tech, so I don't 100% know. But I think that when you go to the main page, I think there's like a join button, somewhere like on the front. I don't know. I make these videos, but it doesn't mean I know what I'm doing ever. And and YouTube always changes. So I knew how to get to it like years ago, but I don't know. It's somewhere on the main page. That's all I know. But yeah. Okay, thank you guys so much. And I'm not going to be available for a live video next week. But I'll be back for like open live video for everyone the week after that. So I'll see you guys then. Okay, bye now.